Hi guys, my name is Reko Ukko. I'm the SVP of Game Design at Seriously. Worked in game design for 15 years, so done a lot of stuff over the times. My profile picture is from the prestigious Horsify Me app, which unfortunately made its downfall when all this blockchain and cryptocurrencies came about. But hopefully Horsify Me comes back again. That was the hottest thing in 2016. So when we started, one of the things we wanted to do at Seriously was basically work on our own IP and just make sure that we create the world, we create the characters, the whole creative side is ours to kind of work with, and be something that we can kind of extend into any other medium possible. So we're actually celebrating this is like the 5th year of Seriously. We have a birthday in like, I don't know, a week. And we have around 70 people working in Los Angeles, in Helsinki. We crossed over 100 million USD revenue some time ago, and are nicely past that. So especially the last year and a half has been really good for us. Best Fiends, it's a match 3 puzzler slash kind of a fighting game where you kind of develop your team and fight against the slugs. But this 5 year has been a really kind of an interesting journey for us, but it's been also a really interesting journey for the brand itself and the IP. So the story of Best Fiends starts in the world of minutia. So back in the day, one day in Green Glades, all the insects there are kind of minding their own business until one day this giant meteor arcs across the sky. And within the meteor, it carries this strange magical substance. And that substance reigns over minutia, and it kind of affects all the inhabitants a little bit. It makes them a bit smarter and more self-conscious. But ultimately, that meteor then smacks right in the flanks of Mount Doom. I'm not going to be sued by the Tolkien Corporation here. And on the flanks of Mount Boom lives this colony of slugs. And they've always been a bit kind of nasty, but they have their own differences with the insects of minutia, but it's been kind of contained. But now, when the power of the meteor is unleashed onto this colony, they grow really ravenous, they grow bigger, they grow hungry, and they are just ready to eat anything. So they basically pour out of Mount Boom and spread out across minutia under the leadership of their mysterious slug king. All the other life forms in minutia hunker down, they run away, they hide, whatever they can do to kind of get out of the way of this massive slug army. And after all is said and done, this bunch of insects remain. They're not many, mostly the youngest, but due to the meteor's subtle influence, they're a bit smarter, and they kind of know that they have to right the wrongs. And together, they basically have to travel to Mount Boom, rescue their friends, see if they can help the slugs, cure them, right the wrongs. And they must become the best fiends. So now all of this, for the IP development, it's really important for us that we have this kind of framework. Like obviously it differs from IP to IP, but we really want to base this stuff on characters, who are the antagonists, protagonists, what is the world, what is the motivation. All of this is basically as important for us as any other aspect in game development. So after 4 years of traveling, you can kind of see where the Fiends have been going at the moment. They're kind of going off the map at the moment, but luckily the Royal Minutian Cartographic Society is hard at work in mapping the new boundaries of the world. So we also have a lot of guests who come over and kind of see what we're doing, because we kind of do, I love the kind of, especially the Finnish game industry, everyone is doing their own thing, so that definitely applies to us. So we have a lot of guests who come over, and once they kind of see everything we kind of done, they always ask like, so where does this all come from? And that is a very kind of funny question, because well, we're just creative people and we do this stuff, and like, how hard can it be? So in order to give any kind of wings to the IP, it kind of needs that sturdy base to be built on. So for Best Fiends, the game revolves around this small timeline that kind of covers the before and after portions of the meteor hitting Mount Boom. We explore like the past and the future in other games and in other mediums, but the kind of Best Fiends is around like the inflection point is the meteor hit. And we kind of, even though the game has been out for 4 years, but we also kind of treat it like that in game, that it's already been 4 years since the meteor hit, so things are changing and times are changing. So with this groundwork, we can kind of explore the world and the timelines. We have a number of like short form animations out, which kind of help a lot, and they kind of visualize things that we couldn't do in the game. We're looking into an SWOT series. We're pretty well known for the YouTube, like creative marketing campaigns we've done with influencers, a lot of charity work as well. And given that we're like 90% games people, it's really important for us to understand that kind of other aspects of entertainment, not just games. So we have these workshops in LA, our LA studio, and those guys are great because they're like, that's Hollywood, the entertainment industry of the world. So it's kind of nice to go there and kind of open yourself up into like these true masters of like who creates stuff. So one of us, like we had like Futurama and Simpsons voice actors. We met some really high-class influencers. And my personal favorite and also like a surprise was my friend like dig up this Art of Drew Struzan book out of his bag, and then I asked like, so why did you bring that over? And then Drew Struzan walks in, and this is the guy whose posters I've had on my like walls ever since I was like 6 years old, and now this guy was talking to us. So it's like these guys create the bestest things ever. So how do we bring this world to the players? All this kind of story, all this world, all these characters, and obviously with the caveat that we obviously want players to play the game and not just like click on cutscenes and stuff. So you really need to be kind of smart about how you do this. So there's a few ways. We have a lot of these kind of non-interrupting discussions going on in the game. So for example, on this Granny Slug event that happens in the game, every once in a while you can see these earthworms kind of discuss a bit about the past and kind of give a hint to the player that there is something other going on in this than just like beating levels. We use other forms, so we have these, we call them the hidden object hunts. There's like very different kind of ways we do this, but for example, the Freddy's Lost Souvenirs was, you were essentially hunting along these different souvenirs, and if you're an old player of Best Fiends, you kind of get to revisit Green Glades and some of the places you started early on. They have a bunch of riddles kind of where you kind of need to really figure out like where do you find these items, and then when you do find them, you are also kind of exposed to the history of Minutia and all the different characters. Like, you don't have to care about it if you don't, but when you kind of dig into it, you can see a lot of kind of a foreshadowing of new worlds, new characters, and so forth. We give a bit of a limelight to some of our Fiends, so they have like single solo quests that are kind of in the world itself, and again, you get a bit of story here and there, but it doesn't really interrupt you in any way. One of our kind of most liked events is a thing called the Minutia's Most Wanted. So as an idea, this basically started as someone wanted to hunt a criminal in the world, but because we want to like have that kind of fantasy or fantasy of the familiar in the game, we kind of wanted to do the like whole 9 yards on this. So essentially, we randomize a slug criminal for you. You get a random name, random crimes. Depending on how well you do, you get different criminals. You keep track of everyone you've captured in the bounty board. And the nice thing is that it starts developing on its own. So when there's only one criminal jailed, he's just kind of like, hey, I didn't do it, I don't even have arms, like how could I be a criminal? But then when you jail more and more of those slugs, they start talking among each other, they refer to themselves, and then you can kind of eavesdrop on the conversation. So you kind of know how the criminal gangs of the Minusian underworld operate. So it's kind of funny to just look into it. So this has an interesting upside when we tie the animation stuff into this. So inspired by the Minutia's Most Wanted, our LA folks got an animation short together, and that works really nicely with marketing because it kind of drives installs engagement because it's an event of its own. It gives some really unique beats outside of the typical like Christmas season and summer and all that stuff, so we can kind of define our own marketing beats. And it's also very differentiated in this kind of sea of sameness. And speaking of animations, so we did a few last year. There's 2 coming out this year, maybe 3rd. We'll see how it goes. It took a few tries to kind of get this kind of this working right in terms of what do we do in game and what do we do animation wise. But currently they have like a total of 15 million views already, so it's been quite popular. And on that note, we kind of gone over, like we have over 600,000 subscribers on our YouTube page, and we link our video content in-game, so you can kind of see all of this stuff happening and as you're playing the game, so you don't really need to go anywhere. And like we have this kind of running show called the Best Fiends show. So that has seen like, ever since we see a really nice increase in how many people and how fast people update to the newest versions of the game. And it's kind of funny, like the marketing in general has kind of shifted a bit, like just from this classic performance and user acquisition into this kind of always-on media like Instagram. And there's this trend of going back to some of the traditional forms of media, in addition to just doing like Facebook and Google buys. So all of this has a really pretty positive impact. So we're quite close to the top 50 US top grossing games. All of our marketing is highly efficient too, so our return on ad spend is roughly around day 90, day 120. So kind of, I'm approaching this bit of I have a surprise for you guys. So earlier in the year, we had this unfinished animation script rolling around in the dusty floors of the Los Angeles studio. So we didn't know if it's happening or not, because you know the creative types, like they kind of flip-flop all the time, like, well, is this funny or not, and can we get jokes working and so forth. But in any case, our game development team got kind of inspired about it. So this was the idea was that the Fiends find a baby slug and that they need to take care of it. So this has already been a few years after the meteor hit, so we start seeing some of these slugs who aren't necessarily as corrupt as the ones who were at the ground zero at the time. So Fiends get a hold of this, and now you have to kind of take care of it and see if you can kind of grow it into being one of the like better slugs, and maybe you can kind of turn the tide a bit. So it was important here to tap into the fantasy of the familiar. So you want to grow the baby slug into a kid and then onto a teenager. If you do a really good job and you kind of send it off its way, it kind of grows up and you get to see its story. There's like a few dozen stories involved in what actually happens when it gets free. But if you kind of screw it up, it grows up as corrupt as all the other slugs in the world. So you've done a bad job. But even that, we kind of give you a story of like what happens next. The animation itself is actually ready. So the guys managed to kind of squeeze it together. It actually premieres tomorrow, but you get to see it right now.
Hello? It's a slug! Salted with vinegar!
But it's just a little itty bitty baby slug. It can't hurt us.
Isn't that right? Oh, seriously?
I see you. You are the cutest little thing I've ever seen.
I think we should raise the slug as our own. I've wanted to be a father for at least 3 minutes now.
I think we should reconsider this. It's a slug, after all.
Oh, it's just nature versus nurture.
Well, I'm gonna nurture her the best.
Nurturing is not a competition.
I'm gonna nurture it so hard it's going to explode. Oh my goodness.
You? Look what you did.
What is wrong with you?
I can't believe you'd hurt an innocent little baby like that.
We've should name the baby slug. We can't call it Baby Slug forever. How about Temper Jr.?
I was thinking Gordon Jr. had such a better ring to it.
As de facto leader of the group, I order you
Facto
to...
leader?
Obviously.
Those fight.
Are you sick?
You can't get Gordon Jr. sick.
Temper Jr. needs to stay healthy.
Come on, yes.
Come on! There's a beautiful spot up here. We can get our first family photo.
Who knew this parenting thing would be so easy?
Why am I the only one pushing this pram up the mountain?
Because you need to bond with a baby. You're dad number 3, after all.
Bond with the enemy. Just look at her. So evil.
Dada?
Oh, me, a dad. Dad number 3. We could name you Howie Jr. That's a good, strong name. For f***'s sake! Out of the way!
Where are you going?
What are you doing?
Come on, guys.
She's got a bomb!
Ah, no thanks.
Not it. Well, couldn't see that coming.
I don't care if she was trying to kill us. I still love her.
Oh, aren't you a sweet angel?
So, if you're interested in joining our little journey, do get in touch. We're a happy, creative bunch of people. We work on our own stuff in a good environment. And I think for a testament, our kind of incredibly good staff retention and low kind of turnover kind of points that we are kind of doing nice stuff in a nice way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't think we've got much time for questions. Let's give people a chance to just a quick one. Has anyone got a quick question? Anyone? I'll ask it then. I mean, the thing for me, the crux of it is, you seem to be trying to kind of use the story as a sort of focal point that then builds layers upon layers that then you deliver in each media. Is that a fair summary?
That is true. We are kind of delving into the questions that the IP itself is starting to raise with this background.
What are the challenges that you face with that, though?
Just making sure that we are kind of on brand and IP in terms of like all the stories we tell. So it's tricky sometimes.
It's keeping it consistent.
Consistency is key. Yeah,
exactly. But obviously, you guys have got a talent of delivering quite high quality art with all of that as well. So that does help.
We have some. Yeah.
On that note, thank you very much.
Thank you.